Greetings, I'm David, and this is Metroid II, Return of Samus. Not Samus Returns, which is the 3DS game. This is the original version for the Game Boy. I'm playing this on an emulator, but I do own the game myself. But unfortunately, I don't have a Super Nintendo or something of the like so that I could play it physically. Ironically, I do own like the Super Game Boy, which is the add-on that allows you to play the Game Boy games on the Super Nintendo. But I had bought that back when Luke and I were doing Pokemon Red, and that's how we played that game. But unfortunately, since I don't own a Super Nintendo myself, I kind of have to just play the game on an emulator if I want to, show the game. So a few different things compared to Metroid 1. Obviously, one, Samus' sprite doesn't look like a stick figure. There's actually some detail to the sprite. It looks a lot better and looks a lot closer to what Samus's suit design would look like in the future, especially in Super Metroid. So, in this story, we, because there's no, like, in-game story, or there's no, like, text crawl like in Metroid 1, that kind of gave you a brief sort of synopsis of what's about to happen. So if you don't have the manual, you don't really know what the deal is here. So, we are on the planet SR388, I want to say that's the name. Because there's apparently a bunch of Metroids here, and we need to kill them all. Starting off with that one. And as you saw, that little counter in the bottom went down by a number. Because we just killed that Alpha Metroid. Now, unlike in Metroid 1, we're not fighting the giant jelly blobs. These Metroids are starting to evolve, and they will take 4 different forms. The first of which, and the weakest of them, is the Alpha Metroid, which is the thing that we just killed. Now, unlike regular Metroids, all these other Metroids that we're going to be fighting can't be frozen with the they can't be frozen with the ice beam. So you just have to pump them full of missiles. Now, once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. You just gotta avoid them and just hit them with missiles. None of the beams will affect them in any way, so don't even bother trying to do that. So, a few differences. Obviously, I talked about Samus' sprite, but all the environments are, obviously monochrome. I think that's mostly the same with the Super Game Boy version as well. The screen's a little smaller, obviously the sprite's bigger. I don't find this game be nearly as frustrating as the original, and maybe that's just me, but the game, I think part of the reason is the fact that this game is far more linear compared to the first game, and especially Super. It... I hesitate to say that it's more linear than Fusion, but it is definitely up there in linearity. It's definitely one of the most linear games in the series. Because, so if you notice down there, that is lava. It's kind of, there's two different sort of substances, lava and water. This is what lava looks like, normally. And then water is more solid color. And obviously, in any game, lava is going to hurt you. I think that's pretty much a given. But anyways, the game blocks off your progression with that lava. So, it'll go away once you clear out all the Metroids in the area that you're in. And then the path to the next area will open up. Which, I mean, I can appreciate that from the standpoint of it's a Game Boy game. It's going to be kind of hard to navigate, especially when you're dealing with the monochrome screen. It's not quite as bad here because you actually have some color, but I think they probably did it because they knew the audience that was probably going to get this game, which was a more younger audience, might have trouble navigating if they don't have things that kind of help limit their progression. Kind of help railroad them into a certain direction. So, a few things introduced in this game. Obviously, the bigger and more detailed sprite that looks a lot more like the Samus we come to know, especially compared to the first game. This game actually adds shooting down and shooting up. Or, well, no, shooting up was a thing in the first game. Sorry, I'm thinking of Mega Man, where I don't think you could shoot up. Hey, bombs. Get those pretty early in most games. Except for Dread. Dread hides the bombs away for a very long time, assuming you don't sequence break. One of the things that I really like about this game in particular, compared to the original, is the fact that it starts you off with 99 health. And it has missile and recharge stations. Energy recharge stations. Which, honestly, is probably the best addition to the game, in my opinion. Hey, an energy tank. So just like in Metroid 1, there are more energy tanks than that you can hold. Like, there are more available than you can hold, so you can use some of them for recharge. Samus can also crouch, which is pretty nice. Makes dealing with ground targets a lot easier. Because unlike in the first game, you couldn't crouch at all. So the only real way to deal with ground targets, other than having the wave beam, was to lay bombs, which was cumbersome. because you also had to time it to make sure that they went off around the same time that the enemy was there, which, you know, wasn't too difficult to do. Nice. This game actually gives you a lot in the first area. Like, we already have bombs, we have we're gonna have about 50 missile tanks, and the ice beam already. Plus an extra energy tank. So, just like in the first game, you can actually get hurt from the blocks that reform, and that'll give you a little boost. I would recommend using that there, just because it makes things a little easier. You don't have to backtrack as much. You might be able to, I don't know, I hesitate to say you could do it with bomb jumps, just because of the platforms. I don't really find a huge reason to use bomb jumping in this game. One, I think Samus's morph ball is a bit floatier compared to most Metroid games. And there really isn't a whole lot of sequence breaking that you can do. And that's obviously a result of the game being a lot more linear compared to others. So, if you notice that item that we saw earlier, we can't actually get it from that side. So we have to come down here and go the long way, unfortunately. There we go. The spider ball. Introduced in this game. Actually, this game introduced a lot of new staple items, like the spider ball. It'll introduce the jump ball, and what's the name of it? Is it space jump? That's it. And I think it also introduced a couple new beam weapons. Although, unfortunately, this game, just like the first game, the beams do not stack. That won't become a thing until Super. Hey. So, Metroids don't become active until they're, like, fully on the screen. So, that means that they won't come after you, but you also can't hurt them until they've fully come on the screen. Now, that being said, you could time it so that when you fire the missile, and you could get the Metroid fully on the screen at the same time, and it will hit the Metroid, which is pretty nice, because that does do some damage. Now, the Alphas only take 5 missiles. Now, that's one of those few spots that you could sequence break in quotation marks. So what happened there was when Samus gets hit, you can actually jump while in midair. And I say sequence break in quotation marks because it's not necessarily sequence breaking, it's just getting something faster. Because otherwise you gotta go around and back over here, and it's just extra time that you don't have to waste. I don't remember any of the names of any of these enemies other than, obviously, the Metroids. They're just generic enemies that we see in pretty much every Metroid game. Should be almost done with the part. No, we still got a little while. Just like Metroid 1, I am doing this post, just because I don't know, I think part of the reason, and I might have cut them out, hopefully I remember to do it, but I'm still coughing a bunch. Again, I'm hoping that I remembered to cut the coughs out, because they suck. It's made recording very frustrating the last couple days, because I don't really like showing a bunch of coughing, but it's unfortunately just something that happens. So the spider ball can be kind of finicky to work sometimes. So the way it works, or the way that you activate it, is you have to already be in Morph Ball, and you have to press down a second time. Now, in order to move on the walls, you gotta hold the directional arrow in whatever direction you want to go. Now, that can be a little finicky, especially when you're near corners, because sometimes it has trouble deciding which way to go. And it always changes whenever you stop. Well, I shouldn't say it always changes, but it changes depending on, like, so if I'm going, like, left, or if I'm going left and then I turn a corner and I let go of the direction, I will then have to hold down or up depending on which way I want to go. If I'm, like, on a sidewall after I've let go. It's weird. It's really hard to explain, but I'm hoping that I explained it well enough. Again, definitely on your first time, and this, I don't know how much better it is in other games. I actually can't remember how many times you see the spider ball in other games. I know there's sort of a spider ball type thing in Prime 1, but I'm blanking on some of the other 2D games. The Alpha Metroids, their hitboxes are a little weird. They tend to like to stay just above wherever your arm cannon is. So if you fired, you would miss them. So you kind of have to jump just a little and shoot in order to actually hit them. Alright. Can't remember. Is that all the Metroids in this area? I might be missing one. I think we are. I would highly recommend having a map on hand whenever playing the original 2 games. Because, yeah, there's no map feature in this game. It'd be really hard to implement a map feature for this game. like for the Game Boy. Alright, looks like we got one more Alpha Metroid. Now, again, you can hit these guys anywhere. Obviously, the giant bulge, jelly bulge, on the bottom is a potential hit spot, but they don't really have any weaknesses, like weak spots. Unlike one of the later Metroids. That stuff down there is bramble, I guess. And obviously it can hurt you if you touch it. I think you can destroy it with your beam, though. So, there are a few sections where it's everywhere, and it does actually help a lot to destroy it. Alright. So, let's actually go ahead and reset that sand so we can get up here and easily get out without having to deal with any of the enemies or the annoying platforming. And let's recharge our health, because why not? Sounds like a good idea. Sounds like something a smart player would do. And I think that's mostly it for right now. So as you probably noticed, there was an earthquake-like thing happening after we killed the last Metroid. That means that the lava in this area, or in the previous area or whatever, has gone away, and we can now enter it and move on to the next area. Again, it's linearity, which, you know, for a Metroid game is kind of something that players don't like. But, I don't know. I don't mind it, personally. I think for this game, it makes some sense to have that linearity. Now, unlike most Metroid games, this game doesn't really have a whole lot of music. Obviously, this is one of the more common themes, but it seems to only really play while going between certain areas. And it just kind of goes away and is replaced basically by beeps and boops. Which, I think if you really want to be able to hear it, you gotta have headphones on or something, because it's very quiet otherwise. Alright. Let's see. So I think we stop as soon as we get into the next area. But we do have one more Metroid to deal with before that. These things, I don't think they can hurt you. You just kind of stand on them and they descend into the sand, which is just kind of more annoying. So I kind of forgot that there was actually a Metroid in here. Ah! Run! Run! Try and get enough distance that I... Yeah, see how I shot and he was just a little above my my arm cannon, so I didn't hit him. Yeah, I had to get enough distance so I could actually turn around, hit the select button to switch the missiles. Okay, these guys suck. I don't like them. These are probably my least favorite enemies. I think it's just the pattern and the fact that they hit for so much. But, that's gonna be it for this episode of Metroid II. And I will see you guys in the next part.